I call the Citizens Budget Review Advisory Committee to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, July the 9th. First order of business is call the order, please. Call the roll call. Oh, okay, yeah, we better do the pledge first. Thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I guess I was trying to run an express tonight. Okay, now let's have a roll call.
Mr. Napier.
Here.
Mr. Herlihy.
Here.
Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mr. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Ring. Here. Mr. Frank.
Here.
Ms. Speak is absent. Thank
Yeah,
you.
She told me last week that she was going to miss this meeting. She had someplace to go, and I told her to be sure she emailed you. Did she?
Actually, I did not get an email, no. I recall what you're saying, though, yes.
Yeah. I guess it'll be unexcused then, since she didn't tell, but she did tell me. I don't know. I'll leave it up to the clerk. She did tell me last week she wasn't going to be here.
I think that counts.
I think that counts too.
Okay. It's an excused absence then.
We had a heads up. I mean, that's the important thing.
Yeah, she did tell me. She told me that last week. Next order of business is approval of minutes. Does everybody have a chance to look at the minutes?
I'm back at it. I got 3 items, small. Page 3. At the very top, first line, it says Hurricane Fund. That should be the General Fund Reserve, not the Hurricane Fund. We basically use it for a lot for hurricane, but I think the name in all of our reports is General Fund Reserve. And if you go to the bottom of the page, Ed had inquired about the millage rate for last year. It's not 3.4%, it's 3.4 mils.
Right.
And that same, so we just need to delete the percent sign and write the word mills in. And that also exists at the top of the next page, on page 4.
Yeah, I see that.
With the corrections, I
With
would
those, I'll
make the motions.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Did you get the corrections? Okay, thank you. I'll take a motion as amended.
I make the motion.
Bruce made the motion. Second. Michael made the second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carries unanimously. Unfinished business is review the chairperson's letter to City Council. I hope everybody had a chance to see that. It was in Ken's packet. And if anyone has anything they'd like to say, or let's just start discussion about it.
Okay, as always. One item that I think is missing in the letter, it's good, Larry, one item missing. The committee's recommendation to City Council to use last year's 3.4 mils for the disclosure notice in August.
I don't recall that passing. There was discussion, but I don't recall any action on it.
Well, I thought we agreed to it, and I just thought it should be in the letter.
It wasn't in the minutes. I don't recall that passing. I remember the discussion, but I don't recall a vote on that.
Well,
We decided just to use rollback, is my opinion.
Well, that was that's the budget. We're talking about separate, the disclosure notice.
Yeah. Just use rollback in that too.
Well, I would make a motion then that be included in the recommendation to City Council.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I'll speak to it.
Can I have a copy of it? I don't have a copy of the letter.
It's in your packet. It's an email from me. It's in your packet.
Thank you.
Okay. Staff is recommending to the City Council. It's in the transmittal that's gone out with the latest council, agenda. They're recommending 3.4 mils as the rate for what's called the DR 420 form. That's the maximum that the city can use. And the reason that you set it that high, even though you're going to vote ultimately on 4.1 something, if something happens between now and September and we have to raise it, we don't have, the city does not have to send out certified mail to every household, which costs a lot of money. And that's the purpose of the thing. And it is a staff recommendation. So I think it's something that we ought to do.
Well, I remember the discussion about it, and I thought we were gonna go with rollback.
Larry, you're confusing two things.
Yeah.
We're going with rollback as far as the budget is concerned. This is the DR 420.
I'm aware of that, Ed. I did those things for 30 years. I know all
Okay.
about them.
All right, fine, I won't say anymore.
Anybody else wanna say something? Michael?
The way I remembered it was we were going to the 3.15, and that was unanimous. When we looked left, we looked right, we did not speak of 3.14, or 3.4 rather, at all. The way I looked over, it was 3.15. That's what we were unanimously sending to council, correct?
That's my
Well, that's
recollection.
the budget.
That's the
rate.
budget.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
there was no
we
discussion
said.
as man to the max for the DR 14 now.
Oh, no, you don't want to do that. You can get yourself in a lot of trouble here and a lot of expense.
Everything's going to be fully funded, Bruce. I don't think we're hamstringing ourselves in any way at this.
I don't know.
I thought we were
Did you-
unanimous in this.
Ken,
This
did you
kind of-
recommend the 3.4?
Yeah, that's what it's in the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. We want to, you want to, you want to consider setting some kind of a buffer versus the rollback rate, just in case there's some changes. We have had a meeting with the insurance company, and we've had some reductions in our anticipated, but we're still negotiating. But there could be some tweaks. We don't know what happens between now and when we adopt the rate in September. We've already had some conversations with the property appraiser that gives us a little bit of pause. So we would like to have a little bit of a buffer. The trim notice isn't where the taxes are set. That's just the highest as it could go, as you well know. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, but, I think that a good recommendation would be to go to the current rate for the trim notice, and then the council would then be able to set a lower rate for the final taxes. It's just good practice to set some buffer in there, in my opinion, but I'll follow your recommendations.
I did these things for 30 years and never did that once.
I'd point out that the city has been doing that very thing as long as I can remember, as long as I've been on this budget committee, which is close to 10 years. And that has always been the thing that staff has recommended, and the city council has always gone along
Yeah,
with
we
it.
did it last year.
Absolutely, we did.
Yeah, it wasn't unanimous.
So we can't, to be very blunt, we'll look kind of foolish if we're going to recommend the 3.12 for both the budget and the trim notice. I don't think that's a very good idea.
Well, what this committee recommended is rollback. We didn't put a number on it because he does not have, you got the final numbers now?
Yes, the calculation is 3.1514. And I agree, it's been the city's past practice, and I think there's no harm in it other than it does show up on the tax notices as a tax increase. That's really the only consequence.
Well, we've still got two more members. Harry, you want to say something?
Well, I see where we did, in my notes, discuss 3.1514, and I have my notes, we were going to discuss just for the trim 3.4 at this meeting. So I have no problem if we want to set a higher amount for the trim. I'm not sure whether it should be 3.4 or some other number. I don't know what that would generate compared to the 3.1514.
It's not gonna generate anything if you don't use the number. If you use rollback, it doesn't matter what that other number is.
That's true.
You could put 8 mills on there and still go to rollback and it wouldn't make any difference.
That's true. So we're either going to go to rollback, or we're going to give the recommendation that they have some wiggle room to increase the budget between now and...
That's the reason I didn't put it in the letter, because I knew we took no formal action on it as a committee. I knew we discussed it, but we never had a vote on it.
Right.
So I guess that's what we can do now. I mean, I don't have a problem with it either, as long as we use rollback in the budget.
And I'm open for discussion on it, too.
Andrea?
I'm all for going with the higher number.
Well, let's go ahead and take a vote on it. There's a motion made by Bruce, seconded by Ed. All those in favor of using 3.4 for the trim advertisement only and roll back in the budget, since the budget is funded at that. All those in favor signify with aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Aye. So 2 opposed and 4 for. And I guess since we got a 4-2 vote, that is we do have a quorum. So if you don't mind, just add that in when you send it to council. Just put another line in or you want me to change my email? Since we took this.
We could continue with the email format, or I could take your letter, add a line of what was just voted on, put it in a letter format.
That's what I thought you were going to do.
And of course, I'll send it out tomorrow to everyone to see. But then I would think I would just deliver that to the council on Wednesday night.
Okay, that sounds fine.
Be a little bit more classier, I think.
Well, I don't have your letterhead or anything, so I really couldn't do a letter. I just did an email.
Yeah.
All I wanted was to get the data to you. Okay, I guess we don't need to talk anymore about that. So the trim notice will be advertised at 3.4, but the budget is funded at rollback, and you do have the final numbers, so we know what that's going to be. That's smaller than last year's rollback, isn't it?
Yes, because the 3.4 was actually smaller. I'm sorry, the 3.4 mills that we adopted last year was a fraction smaller than the rollback rate.
Yeah.
So yes, it's definitely less than rollback.
Public input, I see no public, so I guess we'll move on to new business. We have none. Staff matters. Ken, you're on, buddy.
As always, I thank you for your service. It's a great committee, I think, so appreciate that, and no other comments.
Board matters, comments, and discussions by individual committee members. We'll start down at the other end. Andrea, you have anything you'd like to say?
Not tonight, thank you.
Harry?
I just wanted to know, I don't have in my notes here, when the next meeting is.
January 29th, July 29th, isn't it? July 30th.
July 30, yes.
Okay, July 30. The reason I bring that up is I'm probably going to need an excused absence since I'll be traveling out of the country.
Michael?
I have no comments.
Ed?
Nope, all set.
Bruce?
I'll just make one. Even though I voted and I still agree with the budget the way it's presented, I hesitate to accept the way the Stormwater Utility Fund budget came in with a deficit. I know it's the first time we've shown it, but it shows a 5-year trend of spending more money than what we're taking in, and it's to me, I think we did it that may be a harsh word, but it may be the right word, disservice to the community when we double the fee and we can't balance the budget. And I've thought about that all week. And somehow I think we should have been able to double the revenue and figure out how to put the expenses in line.
After speaking to you today about that item, look back at some of the numbers that were presented on the stormwater fund, and there were some misrepresentations of those numbers. So once again, this is a draft document, and we will be looking at that as far as the formatting and the presentation.
But you have
of the
enough
stormwater.
reserve cash, don't you, Ken, to balance that stormwater fund budget, whatever it is?
Well, that's the confusion. We were trying to do a good thing by making everything presented in the stormwater fund.
Right.
But as you recall, a portion of the costs were in general fund and a portion was in the
Right.
stormwater fund. So as we consolidated those numbers, there was some surplus shown in the stormwater fund. However, the general fund was actually taking a bigger share of the operating and maintenance cost. The transfer from the stormwater fund wasn't covering that entire amount. So we do need to rethink how we're presenting that and showing it. The answer is correct. The expenditures are greater next year, and there is...
And the revenue.
Well, and there were surplus stormwater fund revenue, reserves.
Right.
That could have closed that, but we really didn't present it very well.
But there's still enough cash carry forward to balance that budget as you presented the numbers in there, correct? Even though the general fund, I mean, you could either show it as a transfer, as a loan from the general fund to stormwater, or you could still let the general fund do either way.
We are talking about the formatting and how we show the reserve monies carried forward or sources of funds versus the use of funds.
You'd probably want to give it a loan somewhere since you're trying to match up the revenues and expenditures for the like fund. I would suggest that you give it a loan from somewhere. The general fund's got the money.
Okay. But we will be presenting, the future meeting before, well, in August, we present or have a workshop with the city council. And before that, and that's one of the purposes, I think, of the July 30th meeting, is to hopefully we will have a updated...
Now, this meeting on the 30th, you should have all that worked out, right? Hopefully.
Hopefully, but we'll still have, excuse me, hopefully, but we will still have some comments from the workshop with city council that may revise it even after that.
Exactly.
But I had met with Ken today, and we talked a little bit about how that's being presented.
It's their budget, and they're allowed to change it even right up to the first public hearing.
Correct. And so we're revising some numbers after my meeting with Ken today, so this is a new way of doing the budget. There's going to be quirks in it, and we're going to work those bugs out.
But I like the new format better. I think it gives you better, you can see it better.
I second. Yeah, I think it's better. I
Right.
just think with the idea that
That's
we
a good point,
double
Rick.
the revenue, and the idea, and if I understand, Paul, we're working on a plan to figure out the detail of how we're going to spend that money, right?
That's correct.
So you would think maybe we could figure out how to show this as at least balanced, like everything else we do in the
Oh,
budget?
it has to be balanced.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I thought about that.
The final
So,
budget will
I
be
think-
balanced, one way or the other.
Yeah,
It has to be.
Correct.
Well, I think we should
Florida
work
law
towards
requires a
figuring
balanced
that
budget.
out. Thank you.
Okay. Good discussion. I don't know whether I'm going to be back by the 30th because I'm leaving early in the morning, but I guess I can because that meeting might be important if we're going to make changes. You'll send out I'll have my phone with me and you'll send out a packet, right? So I'll look at it. But I'll communicate with you and let you know. Next meeting is scheduled for Monday, July the 30th. Everybody's got that, and that is right on the original.
Yes, July 30th is on the original calendar, and then there was going to be a follow-up meeting the week after that on August 6th.
Right.
It
If
would
needed.
still be prior to the city council's consideration of the draft. So hopefully you'll see the draft at that point, and that we'll be presenting. And
Well, if I have to, I'll come back. That's not that much of an issue. I'll probably be ready. That's 3 weeks anyway. I'll probably be coming back by then anyway.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll be leaving out of country on the 31st, so I'll make the 30th meeting. but I will not be back until the 10th of August, so I'll
So
need
you'll
an
miss that
excuse
meeting
on
and
the,
all. I
on the
think we'll
6th.
have the heavy lifting done at the July 30th meeting. Unless city council makes a whole lot of changes. And I don't think they will. They usually don't. Ed?
Ken, just, it's a small thing, but, seeing where we are with the golf course restaurant facilities, you may want to consider lowering that rent thing for the budget next year. It's not a big deal, but.
Mr. Chairman, and I agree, we may have to look at that, but let's see where the council goes on Wednesday to see where their position is on rebidding, staffing, contracting, because if we have a proprietor in place by September, then we'll know what that number should be prior
it'll be golden.
to all that.
Yeah, I agree.
So I agree, we're probably gonna have to take a look at that number depending on how it goes, but
Yeah.
for right now, I just think it's a placeholder, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
I think that's a good idea. Just wait and see where the council goes with it. But that's a good point, Ed. But obviously, if they don't collect the rent, if they don't have somebody on in September, they're not gonna spend money they haven't collected.
Well, that rent is kind of earmarked to pay back some of that loan, so that's kind of our goal, and we have and we're showing some of that payback
Right.
to the general fund, or to the building department, which was a discussion that you all had a couple meetings ago. So we're trying to incorporate all these nuances into the budget. May not be the amounts that we would like to see, but at least we're making efforts, both in the airport and with the golf course, and trying to pay some of these loans back.
Okay, anybody have any other comments? No other comments for the order. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.